Another day, another body cam is dropped, and proof that going out with a bang is not always a good thing. I'm sure you've all seen the videos by now. A crazy man named DeShawn Leeth steals a police car and goes crazy assaulting a police officer in broad daylight right next to a busy highway, all the while rambling nonsense about Jesus and performing exorcisms.
In the name of Jesus, I rebuke that car right there. That's from fatal. Because if it's not a Jesus follower, stop right now. If it's not a Jesus follower, stop right now. We come and devil, sit down in the name of Jesus. I committed in the Oval Office.
In my opinion, it's clear this man was on drugs, or at least having some sort of mental breakdown, which sadly ended in the officer taking the man's life. And the police department's quick release of the body cams prevented this incident from becoming another Ferguson because, well, after seeing that footage, who in their right mind is going to support that? And while it's funny to laugh at the idea of someone supporting DeShawn online with a GoFundMe, no less, his story is actually rather sad, and it's unfortunate that he ended up here in the first place. So if you're curious how this madman got hailed as a community leader, all the while playing GTA 5 in real life, well, then you've come to the right place. But before I get into that, if you like this episode of Balance Takes, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another episode. Or I'll go back in time and take your favorite movie and give it the modern audience treatment.
No! God, please, no! No! No!
One thing that stood out to me is that, unlike every other case of black man being shot by cop, I literally couldn't find a single person on the internet defending him. Like, not one. Besides the GoFundMe with a few $1,000s collected, I couldn't find any actual people putting actual arguments out defending him. Now, I'm not saying they didn't exist, but I found more articles making fun of the fact that they do exist than the actual defenders themselves. Like this one from Matt Walsh. I can only conclude that perhaps this was some kind of preemptive measure from Daily Wire, anticipating perhaps some crazy social outrage, because to be fair, what usually happens is everyone, especially from the far left and the black community, rushes to lionize someone that clearly did not deserve it. And with social media available to amplify every terrible opinion possible in humanity, this happens basically nonstop. But that either didn't happen here, or the ones that did quietly went back and erased their posts
Like it never even happened.
But what I did find is a multitude of articles calling this man, DeShawn Leeth, a community leader, which made me go,
This sounds a bit weird.
Like, I don't mean to be morbid, but have you ever seen or been to one of those funerals where the person who passed away was just a drunk who couldn't keep a job, and somehow you still can come up with scores of friends and family that get up to the podium and say really generic, rehearsed nonsense like, Joe Billy Bob was such a great man. Billy Joe Bob brought love and joy into the lives of everyone that he touched. Yeah, okay. So I did a little bit of digging, and that's when I noticed a second thing that was odd. Although this was a massive event that went viral, not only can I find very little about DeShawn's life, I can't find any information about his autopsy or anything. No leaks, no information, nothing. So I have no idea why any of this happened, which is probably the primary thing that everyone wants to know. Now, I do respect his family's privacy, I really do, but the absence of information tells me that, unfortunately, it was probably drugs.
Could you believe it was drugs?
Now, I was able to find some of his social media. He had an Instagram, which hadn't been posted on since 2022, and a Facebook, which had a bunch of generic influencer-style quotes on it, but that's really it. Although, this one did make me chuckle. Talk about posts that don't age well. But as is shown in this interview with DeShawn Leeth himself, the famed community leader, which I found on the debtfreejustice.org website, what all this really underscores is that his life ended just as tragically as it began. Tell us about yourself. I tell people all the time, my life is a roller coaster ride. I grew up in Detroit. I'm the youngest out of 5 children. My childhood was traumatic. My mom was a heroin addict. I grew up thinking that my dad died in a car accident. That was trauma for a young boy growing up without his father, especially for a black kid, to not have a father figure in the household. I had to be a man at the end of the day at a young age because I was living with my mom. She was doing heroin. If she got sick, that can kill her. She's about to overdose, and I have to go into the neighborhood and find drugs and be like, hey, my mama's sick, because she don't got her fix. That's the trauma. So that trauma created a sense of urgency, and I have to survive because I don't have the basic things to survive as a kid. I'm doing grown-up things at 11 years old that I should never have even gotten into knowing about. Already from the get-go, you can tell this man did not have a good childhood. In fact, I will go so far as to say he didn't have a childhood at all. And I would directly say, this is the fault of his parents. There's no father in the household. The mother is not stepping up, taking responsibility, and unfortunately, this is not uncommon. I was molested when I was young. I done been through every trauma from neglect to abuse to everything as a child. But it taught me how to survive through anything, and that's where I keep my motor going. I've been through so much so young, from 5 to 11, it was never no structure. So at 11 years old, I caught my first case in the system. I went into Kmart and stole a bike because everybody in the neighborhood had bikes, and I didn't have a bike. So it wasn't like I was a bad kid or nothing. And I rolled out into the hood, and guess what? Everybody had their eyes on me for a change. Everybody was giving me the attention that I needed to keep going on, to keep my kid energy going. And here it shows that he's just trying to survive, and he's making ends meet with what he was given. And frankly, what he was given was nothing. It appears that pretty much everyone else was given nothing. No hope, just trying to survive. And well, no one's there to tell him right from wrong. The next thing I know, I got 7 police cars surrounding me at 11 years old, the dude from Kmart with video footage like, that's the kid right there. That's the kid that stole a bike. Not, that's the kid that killed somebody. Not, that's the kid that went in the store with a gun and robbed him. But I had 7 police officer cars surrounding me. I wanted to run, but I didn't know where to go. There were so many of them. How did being in the system affect you and your family? I caught a fine, a fee, and it went straight to my mom. And guess what? My mom's a dope addict. She don't got no money. She's on the government issue funding. So growing up, I was never a violent person. I was a people person. But I guess for the survival, a criminal lifestyle started getting a bit stronger because I had to survive. I had to go into Myers, load up a cart, and steal food for my family. The system created that urgency of having to survive. It never gave me that urgency, an opportunity to get out of the system. I feel like the system has put me in a position to have to survive in the streets. It's interesting here, he blames the system for what's going on, somewhat understandably. There was no actual hope or way out given to him. It was just, here's the law, you broke it, congratulations, you're back out of jail or prison or whatever. Have fun on the streets back where you were.
Boy, oh boy.
And then he goes on to explain how he's basically in and out of juvenile systems and in and out of jail/prison for various crimes and criminal offenses. He comes to this spot right here where he says, I knew I had to do the work inside to come home to be able to be disciplined. So inside, I had to come on the yard to gather young people to talk about how we're going to do a restorative circle, without even learning that I'm doing a restorative circle already. How do we do things to structure our family economically when we into survival mindset all the time as black and brown folks in the United States? So I ended up getting a chance to come home. I came home through a program where they said they will help you if you establish yourself when you come home, and then they didn't. It made me go straight into survival mode. I came into the program from prison into the worst hotel in Washtenaw County called the Harmony House. You can't wake up. It's prostitutes, dope dealers, it's everything. This is the first day I come home, January 5th, 2020, and this is an environment that I have to restructure, to believe in myself again, to establish, to be able to be a law-abiding citizen, and not having that survival mindset. So I did that. In the first 3 weeks when I came home, I didn't have a social security number. On May 2021, I got my first job. The system didn't teach me to get a job or nothing. I got my first job as a walk-in to the 7-Eleven convenience store in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Did you have anyone to mentor you? This mentor took me in for a couple years to give me a structure. And because of the structure he gave me, guess what? I made the honor roll at an all-white school. And that's just showing that it takes relatable people to get into relatable solutions. I just want to help young people. I just don't want young people to go back to prison. I don't want young people to go to juvenile. I don't want young people to die with these RIP shirts without really understanding it. God just gave me a name, underdog, and I am an underdog. I know a lot of youth feel like they're underdogs because they don't have the basic resources to make them feel like they can get out of the environment they're in. So they go in with an underdog mindset. That's a great name. Underdog Nation. That was the name of the nonprofit I started in August 2021. My mission is to help prevent youth to go into juvenile system and also prevent teen violence and youth from disengagement from schools. That is my mission. That is the goal that I believe God has put in my heart to come out to this community. You can tell his heart is actually in this, and I believe he genuinely wants to help people. But the last part of his interview really struck me as odd, because he says he gets his first job in May of 2021, but then he started a nonprofit called Underdog Nation to help other juveniles in August of that exact same year. I won't disparage his motivations, but considering that this man had barely enough time to even turn his life around at that point, I don't see how DeShawn had the tools or experience to take a project like this, as noble as it was. And when I look at the organization he was part of, which is also where this interview came from, Debt-Free Justice, when I go to the website, it's just layered with leftist assumptions about life, race, and reality. Some of their goals, such as reducing number of fees and fines, which keep people down, preventing them from being able to excel, I can agree with. But then I keep reading, and it's more talk about racial and economic justice, targeted policing, and over surveillance. Reading through this, I get the feeling that the DFJ project focuses more on the downstream effects of problems in the minority communities and doesn't address the core problems themselves.
Baseball, huh?
And I'm sorry, the primary problems are ones that can be fixed by a moral and cultural revival. I absolutely agree. The system itself is often overbearing. But what's missing here is how do people get caught in a spiral in the first place? They need hope. They need help planning, help saving. Actual leaders to go in and teach people to make better and moral decisions with their lives. DFJ is just a veneer of aid, but I don't believe it will lead to lasting change really needed in communities. Maybe DeShawn saw something similar when he branched out and founded Underdog Nation. Maybe he wanted to be that person who actually reached into the community and made a difference. We will never know now what he was thinking or what he intended, but ultimately what DeShawn needed was the baseline morality that only religion can provide. He mentioned crying out to God in his interview, but what happened along the way? Did he really believe in God, or was it just a fleeting moment of desire? I don't have the answer. He says God gave him the idea for Underdog, but did he really believe in God? And if so, then what happened? Where did he get lost? Looking at his life as a textbook tapestry of tragedy, it's clear that he needed guidance from the beginning, and he never got it. Now that he's gone, I don't have any answers. But what I do have an answer to, and what I would like to leave with you, the viewer, is this. The decisions you make now not only influence your future, but the future of those around you and after you. This story didn't start with a crazed man stealing a police car. It didn't start with a young man fresh out of prison. It didn't even start with an 11-year-old stealing a bike. It started with his mother addicted to heroin and his father not in the home. It continued because his mother didn't step in and be the mother, the nurturing guidance that she needed to be. It continued because no one in the community stepped up to be the father, teacher, or provider. It exacerbated because they weren't part of a church that could have easily intervened and changed the entire story of an otherwise broken family. Instead, it fell on the system to do something that, frankly, the system can't do. The system can't rehabilitate. The system can't fix people. Leaders fix people. Hope fixes people. Religion, God, church, those things fix people. You need that foundation. DeShawn, sadly, was right about one thing all along. Children need mentoring, guidance, and a proper outlet. And frankly, the state is not capable of giving it to them. And sadly, his passing only brought clarity to the fact that his childhood was torn from him. And now, as a consequence of the decisions his parents made and his own fumbling through life, he has himself succumbed to the cycle, leaving behind a daughter of his own without a father. Don't be that person in this story. Escape the cycle. Don't fall to circumstances in life. I would even say, seek God. And ask yourself, what greater legacy is there in life than to leave behind a son or a daughter that is prepared for the world and ultimately greater than you? Break the cycle of abuse. Don't succumb to the spiral. But anyway, those are just my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comment section down below your compliments or criticisms. And well, I'll see you again next time. Bye!